Hello and welcome to this short video covering your group case analysis. This is something that you'll have to turn in on final exam day, a document to me covering, you'll select one of these group cases and then you'll turn this in to me via email on final exam day. So if we go ahead and look at the overview over here, it says each group case below asks your group to delve more deeply into a given accounting topic. So I'll decide on the size of the groups after I know the enrollment for the class. Grading rubrics for the case analysis are going to be detailed in separate documents posted up on Canvas. Note that each of these cases requires your group to use the library to locate books and or academic articles. All of the Stafford guides are accessible from this location. You can find an orientation video there. If you have any questions, here's your a website to go to that should answer most of your questions. So the first option will be the balanced scorecard group case analysis. And so with these cases, I'm going to ask each group to email me their first and second choice for which one they would like to do. And it'll be a first come, first served basis. So I'll try to give each group either their first or second choice, and hopefully we don't have to go down past their first or second choice, okay? So we look at here at the first one. This covers the balanced scorecard. And so what you can see is you're going to provide an overview of the balanced scorecard. You provide an overview describing relationships. Why is it important to look beyond financial measures when looking at a company's performance? What are the advantages and disadvantages of using a balanced scorecard? What's the purpose of a strategy map? And then find a company that has used the balanced scorecard. How did they use it? Was it successful? Why or why not? What are some criticisms? And then finally, can you think of any dimensions that should be included in the balanced scorecard that don't currently exist but might be more relevant for today's business environment? For example, what about sustainability? What about corporate ethics? Where would that fit in? Those are just some examples, and you are certainly not limited to corporate ethics or sustainability. If you think of some other dimensions that you don't think are really addressed very well in the balanced scorecard, feel free to discuss those. So the next big group of questions concerns the learning and growth perspective and the knowledge-based view of the firm. So here I talk about what's the difference between explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. How and why does an organizational knowledge provide a competitive advantage? Describe the importance of knowledge integration. And you can see right over here what I'm doing like this. These are the references. So if I look down here some, you can see those are all the resources, and you'll be in charge of finding those resources. I give you the reference. You just have to find them off the UMW library website. Okay, I don't have those posted up on Canvas. How does knowledge integration provide an advantage? What's meant by common knowledge? Describe the role of learning and growth in managing and increasing organizational knowledge. Here I say, according to Kaplan and Norton, human capital is one category within the learning and growth perspective. And they define human capital as the availability of skills, talent, and know-how required to support the strategy. How do you think that addresses the importance of knowledge? And then do you think the learning and growth perspective is more important today than it was 20 years ago? Why or why not? Should the learning growth be its own perspective or something that underlies all the other perspectives? The next group of questions concerns the balanced scorecard applied to IT projects. So right over here it says the authors applied the balanced scorecard to IT projects, and along these lines complete the following. Describe each perspective in the balanced scorecard for IT, and this is the seminal article covering the balanced scorecard for IT projects. And why is it important to look beyond financial measures when evaluating IT performance? And then finally, these are all background questions. Okay, these are all background questions, and I do want you to answer these. And this is the actual case, and it's the Gail Palmer Ashton Graduate School of Business, the Balanced Scorecard Initiative. You will need to purchase this case. It's probably no more than $6, so it shouldn't be too onerous. The first thing you have to do is provide an overview of the case, discuss the hallmark features of the Ashton Business School as explicitly noted or inferred in some of the conversations. Upon leaving the dean's office, having taken an ad hoc, how would you proceed? Do you like the task force profile Riley put together? Basically answer these questions that relate to the case, provide an overview of the case, and then I added my own final question is what's based upon what you know about the UMW MBA program and your experience so far. Can you think of 2 strategic goals and 1 performance metric for each goal that would be good for the UMW MBA program? And again, here are all the references for those resources that will help you to answer those questions. You are certainly not confined to using these resources that I list. These are suggested. Okay? And again, you are going to be in charge of finding those resources from the UMW library. Some of those resources may take a while to get because you might have to go on interlibrary loan. So I would suggest gathering these articles sooner rather than later, because you don't want to have a delay and not be able to answer some of the questions because you're waiting on an article. The second option is performance measurement. Okay, so here I talk about some of the background questions. What is agency theory? What's some of the key premises behind agency theory versus stewardship theory? And then I ask you to compare agency theory, which is a very commonly used theory in economics. And I want you to compare agency theory against stewardship theory on these dimensions that I have in this table, and it would be great if you just basically completed this table in the document that you submit to me. The next part is to read the case titled The Masquerade Mask Company and this article, and again that will be posted up on Canvas. Either that, I may post it up on Canvas. If I won't, I'll include the resource. I do have the reference, okay? Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just say I'm going to ask you to get the reference for that article, okay? And the reference is down here, down below, okay? So answer the following questions, provide an overview, and then answer the case requirements on page 11 of the document. And then what I want you to do is relate the case to agency theory and stewardship theory, and is their system more congruent with extrinsic or intrinsic motivation? Why or why not? Do you think they follow more of an agency or stewardship orientation? And based on your professional experience, do you think most performance measurement systems are based off agency theory or stewardship theory? And then finally down here, this list of questions says several management scholars have critiqued the underlying assumption of self-interest in agency theory. So agency theory is very heavy on self-interest. So it's basically saying with agency theory, you have the agent and you have the principal. The agent works for the principal. So if you think about the principal is the owner of the firm, the agent could be a manager within the firm. And so what agency theory is that there's a direct goal conflict between the goals of the agent and the goals of the principal. The principal wants the agent to work hard and for as least amount of money as possible. The agent, on the other hand, could be looking to maximize her own or his own compensation. And so you do have that assumption of self-interest, and within agency theory, it's very much based upon extrinsic motivation. There isn't a whole lot of room in there for somebody to go above and beyond just because they think it's the right thing to do, rather than agency theories that would say they're going to go above and beyond because they want a raise or they want some other type of extrinsic reward. And so some of these scholars have critiqued that and saying that that focus on extrinsic motivation and the focus on self-interest has led into some of the ethical dilemmas that we have had. And this is a really good article that I want you to be sure to read and include in your discussion. And this is another working paper that you can find on scholar.google.com. And then finally, I say over here, based on your interpretation of management accounting so far, would you think it's more aligned closely with agency theory or stewardship theory? Why or why not? And do you think more exposure in business schools to stewardship theory and or the liberal arts would temper some of this focus on extrinsic motivation and self-interest? Explain your answer. And so again, I list the references right over here for you. And this is the Masquerade mask case that goes along with this group case here. So that is the case right up here, the Walters case. Okay, that's written by Melissa Walters. The next option that you could do is on relevant costing. So here I'd ask you to do some more background questions to find a relevant cost. What's meant by an incremental cost? What's a sunk cost? Why do people still consider sunk costs even when they shouldn't? And that gets into some of these. And so then here's some explanations from a theoretical standpoint on why people may still consider sunk costs and why they may continue to throw good money after bad in order to get a project done when maybe they should have pulled the plug, but they just cannot do it because of the sunk cost. And so these are some theories that have been applied to IT projects to kind of explain some of the sunk cost fallacy, okay? Here I ask you to describe a few situations in which you've seen the sunk cost fallacy. These are some examples, and you are certainly not limited to those. Here I ask you to talk about sunk cost and the escalation of commitment, especially within capital budgeting and IT projects in particular. And I'll give you some more questions to answer. Here I'm saying, how can the sunk cost be reduced? What did some of these other folks find about with the effect of general economics education on sunk costs? And then finally, we get into the case, which is a really interesting case. Here I ask you to read an article and talk about, this was done on a study on animals on sunk costs and why do they consider sunk costs. And so the kind of authors kind of conclude that maybe there's a reason why we should consider sunk costs. So the last case talks about John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and the Barbary pirates. It's an illustration for relevant cost and decision making. So you answer question 1, question 3, question 4, and then question 6. And then again, here are all the references to help you. The last case option is organizational politics and budgeting. Here I ask you to describe the multi-rational view of organizations. These are all the background questions. Describe the rational and political perspectives of budgeting. Are budgets just simply vehicles for maintaining control, or do they actually help achieve rational goals? Explain how budgets can be used to portray rationality. What's meant by participative budgeting? What are some of the factors that contribute to the success of budgeting initiatives? Do budgets still add value? Do they provide a competitive advantage? Describe some of the budget games played by managers. And then your case assignment with the budgeting is called Oriole Furniture. And again, you'll need to purchase this case, and I will send you a link to that if you choose to do this case. And of course, you will answer these questions that go along with the case, okay? And then here are your references, of course, to solve this case option and its background questions. Now, in terms of what's required, these are the requirements of the case analysis. I want you to submit a document to me answering the background questions and all the case questions. And of course, this wouldn't make sense for you to submit this as one long integrated essay, because I just have so many questions that are all related in a very macro level, but do have some finer level details that I want you to tackle and separate them out. So basically what I'm saying right over here in how to answer these, you can use headers and subheaders to answer each question. And of course, I'd want you to answer the question in a nice paragraph or two, or however many paragraphs you think you need to answer the question. Certainly one sentence is not to answer the question, will not be sufficient. You need to give me thoughtful and complete answers. I would want you to submit this to me via email by 5 p.m. on final exam day. Okay, that completes the video on the group case analysis. Thank you so much.